that we're ready to go. Just three. Hey. Well, that's interesting. Apparently the new Facebook live stream goes ahead and just starts live streaming without you telling them to start. How is everybody? I guess we won't start with music today, since YouTube, not Facebook, is going to fuck with me. How are things? When did this thing start? Silly. Alright, well, today we're going to be transforming live for your edification Fans Toys figure FT41 Sheridan. It's nice. It's got the classic Fans Toys approach to transformation design, which is ad hoc and a little sloppy, but it's got some clever ideas in it. I like some of what they're doing here. We can go over articulation since we got it in robot mode. The shoulders are a little weird. Like they're designed to kind of read like they're connected here. So he looks good in a neutral pose, but if you try to do anything, you're going to discover that the shoulders are really jointed in a weird way and don't actually line up where they should. You can kind of fake it by manipulating the armatures, but it is what it is. Without further ado, Generations version was cool. He does look good. I mean, he's got the standard Fans Toys spiffy paint job. Got a real nice paint job that, can chip a little bit. And linkages, funny little linkages. But let's just get going here. So what we'll do is we'll close the fists off. There's actually a little tab that you can get under here for lifting up this. We're just going to flip the fist in. And then what you do is line this up and kind of squeeze it shut. If it won't line up, it's because it's rotated a little bit. But it will collapse all the way if you do it right. We'll do the same thing over here. Bet you weren't expecting that fist to go in like that, huh? After seeing the other one? Shocking. We just got to get this lined up. There we go. So that's set. And then you rotate on this secondary joint. I like to leave the arm at an angle for now, but and then you bring this one all the way around to the front. So we'll do the same thing over here. There we go. And then we will so you have to kind of pop this loose, and they did give you kind of a little knurl here, a little ridge, so you can push on this part instead of pushing on the joint by mistake, which is kind of nice of them. But basically you're just trying to force the whole thing up so it comes loose. So it comes out like that. It's really neat. I like how the false turret encapsulates the real turret. That's kind of a fun design note. Now once you have these all the way up and you've cleared these smoke things, you can reuse the hole that the smoke things went through to have this pin, this tab, go through that hole. So we're just going to get this lined up, and you have to kind of, it's a double hinge on the arm. Let's blow it out so you can see. So there's a hinge and then a hinge. But you're just trying to get it to collapse inside, which can be a little tricky, but it's not too bad. The alignment you're looking for is like this. The tab is just inside the hole. Not all the way through, but it's just kind of there. And this is sitting like this, so we'll collapse this one over here. There we go. And then what we're going to do is open up the panel behind his head. And while we're thinking of it, it doesn't prevent it from transforming, but it prevents, you know, it's something that's very hard to fix later. But we can just go ahead and get this silver bit out. It's almost impossible to fix later, so you may as well do it now, or if you discover that you forgot it, then don't do it, because it still looks like a tank. It's not a big deal. So what we're going to do is, the way this tab's in, like, it's supposed to be flat like that. What we're going to do is we're going to bring the whole panel forward a little bit so that we can clear the head. And we'll just lift this over the head. So you see this tab stays back here. The head lifts out. And this is just floppy linkage. It's not a parts former. It's technically not a parts former, so they did it. It's for this reason that I tend to eschew Fans Toys figures, but I can't resist a tank bot. And when the second release of these came out that fixed the problems of the first release, then I was feeling a little more confident about doing it. I had actually pre-ordered this thing back in the first release and canceled the pre-order when I heard all the problems. I just didn't want to wait around like 6 weeks for spare parts or whatever was going to happen, so I just abandoned that pre-order for the time. I just kind of line things up like that. It's very important that you turn the head the proper way. There's the neck joint, which is just for articulation, but then there's another rotation joint here, and it goes around 180 degrees. And you don't strictly have to do it. It will go into tank mode mostly without turning that around, but that is the right way to do it. And then we lift this up and we can lower the head down. And the head, with that turned around, will line up properly. And then we take this bit and we just articulate it straight up. And now we're going to rotate the whole assembly sideways. But now this bit is in the way of something we need to do. So what we'll do is we'll lower this down out of the way and we'll rotate just the turret back. And now we have plenty of clearance there. And we're just going to pass this big part through there. And we could pretty much start stitching this up. You're going to constantly stitch this, but there's 6 pins and 6 holes. And there's also these hooks that grab those hooks that are sticking through here. Right there. Part of the arm. And so you're just getting that whole assembly pressed in there. And I just like to kind of do it like that. And then we just want to make sure this silver bit is laying flat. And we're pretty much done with the back of the tank. It's going to come into play in a little bit. We'll finish with the turret. We're just going to move it out of the way a little bit, and we can hold the turret still and just rotate this the rest of the way around to the front. And then I like to go ahead and flip this out. And really, contra what happens in the video, it's really a lot easier to get this little panel out now than to try to do it later. So I tend to just kind of completely flip it around, even though ultimately it's going to lay like that. But I don't want it to accidentally flip back around, so I do it that way. So now we'll turn it over and we'll start working on the legs. Legs are pretty interesting. They have some fun little twists and turns. What you have to do is untab this little retaining pin. I'll show it to you. It just kind of locks the knee on a joint that's not supposed to be a joint, namely this joint. And it doesn't sit in there real tight. I don't know how entirely necessary it was, but they made it that way. So we're going to flip these out to 90 degrees, and then while we're thinking about it, we can go ahead and flip these back, because they would otherwise be in the way later. And not hard to correct later, but just while we're thinking about it. All right. Next, we're going to rotate this down 90 degrees so his shins are pointed towards the turret. And then we have to get these started. It can be kind of a pain. One of the best places to catch it is there's like a little bit of a bit there, and you can thumbnail that bit to get it started. But we're just going to flip this up so it's flat. We're going to flip this over, and then we're going to rotate the treads. If you don't rotate the treads, notice they sit further this way when you rotate them. So I'll put it back so you can see. So it's an off-center rotation, and we want to make sure that we have rotated it that way. And then I like to fold this up like this, and I like to bring the leg further around in the direction that I had it, basically going 180 degrees. And let me just stop here for a second. In the original version 1 of this figure, the first release, this joint that the leg rotates on, it's a transformation joint. Or it might be, yeah, it's a legit knee rotation, but this used to be a pin, and when people would find the pin would get loose or would fall out and the leg would come apart, and the repair was actually to send people this screw. It was like a self-tapping screw, and you would screw it in. It looks like with this second version, I was a little disappointed because I asked if it came with the repair, because I don't want to have to source that screw separately, and it didn't come with it, and I was like skeptical about that. And then I noticed that the screw is already applied, so it looks like there was a manufacturing change that went ahead and just used the screw instead of the pin. Unfortunately, it does mean that one screw is going to have a tendency to get a little loose, and the other screw is going to not get loose. They really should use reverse screws, like screws where the thread is backwards. But you always end up with one screw getting loose just because of the way things twist and turn. But we're like this. We have just turned this around and folded this a little bit. So it was like that, so it could turn around, and we folded it. And then I just like to kind of do both of these folds at the same time. So I'm going to continue bringing the leg around. This will collide otherwise, so we just like to keep that one. We're just going 90 degrees with it, so it's like that. And then we can tuck this in so that the hinge for that plate is captured by the lower leg, and then you can flip the plate up. And it can be kind of tricky to untab this plate, but usually if you just pick at it with a fingernail, you can get it out, no big deal. So now, this was real tight the first time I did it, but as always, we don't want to hold anywhere but like the piece and the other piece. But we're going to extend this foot. We're going to pull that out. And then this can fold, and you can see how if this tread wasn't rotated around, there wouldn't be enough room for this. This is on like a little curved slider. So when you slide this up, it also folds the tread into the proper shape. It's kind of fun. And this tabs in here, and then you just make sure that these die cast pieces line up fairly well here. You might have some alignment problems, but that's what you want to do with your tread. So we'll just do it over here. Same story. Put this around. This around, fold that up, and then we can rotate this the rest of the way, capture the hinge, fold up the plate, and flip out the toe, rotate this bad boy. You have to pull this out. Pull it out, and then rotate this. And it's funny, the thing came with like a lot of like oil on it, I guess to keep it from getting locked in position during shipping. So you see some shiny sort of oily bits. You want to make sure that these thighs are just nice and straight. And this bit untabs, and then the whole thing flips around here. If you don't have the waist straight, you'll have trouble getting this metal thing to fit into the groove properly. But if you sit it down far enough, and it does help to collapse the turret like that. Oh, and I got these out of the way at the beginning of the video, but it doesn't hurt to go ahead and flip these trim pieces so they cover up the slider. Again, if you forgot that, it wouldn't be the end of the world. It'd still look like a tank. But this whole thing goes like this, and then you continue folding the leg up. Now I like to kind of curve this, or just put that out of the way for a second, because I'm trying to get this. You want this, there's a tab here that tabs into the middle of the thigh, and another tab that tabs into this tab hole here. There's a tab there. So we're just trying to get it all to line up. And I got my finger stuck. It's stuck. You dummy. Between the armature. It's not a parts former because it's still connected. Anyway, so you flip this here. Get this thigh lined up. I'm just trying to get the tabs aligned so I don't cause undue stress on it. And then you get this tabbed in here. And here's where we need to make sure this is flipped out. Okay. There we go. So that's tabbed in. And notice that this this flange here ends up on top of the silver bit when you tab it together. We'll tab this one in. Can be a little scary because you're like, oh man, am I going to break that delicate little knee if I push too hard on this? But you do have to kind of go after it. And then at some point along the way, you have to get rid of the sort of false treads that make his feet look a little better. And then you can flip this down. And now we've got the whole front of the tank spliced together, and we've got the whole back of the tank mostly. Like I said, you constantly have to reapply that. And this armature, I don't know if you can see, it has like a little indentation in it. And that actually captures a pin that's part of the arm. So you do have to make sure the arms are a little bit loose, and then you can fold this down all the way and make sure the arms catch it. If you try to squeeze too hard on the sides of the arms, it'll make the whole thing come apart, so be aware of that. Mostly you just want to be squeezing vertically to make sure the thing is holding together. And then finally, and people have trouble with these grooves, it's a little weird because there's a groove there, and you can see it actually lines up with a tiny little tab built into the die cast right there. And then there's a tab there, and it actually lines up with the tab in the silver bit. And it can be a bit destructive to this plastic socket. And I find the best way to kind of preserve that is when you get it started here, just think in terms of trying to apply the force as if you're trying to kind of make it go up. So we're just, it helps to get this silver bit lined up in the tread, and then we just kind of want to give it some upward force. So we line up the tread, and it kind of snaps together. It's a little freaky. I've thought about shaving down that one burr on the leg just to make it, but I don't know if it would hold together properly if I did that, so I just left it alone. We flip these things out to finish off the look of it. Kind of tighten these. That's pretty much it. Now it's in tank mode. Let's see what's been going on in the wacky, wonderful world of discussion. Oh, he comes with a single accessory, the Hollywood movie mask that goes along with like him and Trax and Hoist. Hey, Lila. Sup, bro? Hide. Oh, got the new 51 Studio Series Soundwave yesterday and love it. All right. Oh, Everyone stop doing anything because GTA is taking the dog out. How's it going, Shark? We are a whole 20 minutes. Took me 20 minutes to transform. I mean, I could do it a lot faster if I didn't stop and explain it. We'll transform it back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the front half and the back half, and I'm just looking to break. I want to create a gap there. And you have to do it over here. And once that's loose, you can kind of let the arms fly sideways, and you can get a little extension out of it. We can flip these things up while we're thinking about them. They're just little trim pieces. And we can squeeze all this together for the 1000th time just to keep it as a compact unit. The front, we're gonna get under this and lift it up. I feel like my focus is like, I don't know if I can get my focus right, but I'm gonna try. Hey. All right, there we go. That's better. Sorry I was out of focus the whole time. So once we get this gap open, we can detach the legs and flip them up 90 degrees. And then we take this whole hip assembly and, hey look, it's not a parts former, there's a thing holding it together. Fans toys. All right. And then we're gonna do leg stuff. So we can flip these trim pieces out of the way. And we can pop that tab out, fold the foot 90 degrees and compress it. And then we can compress the treads. We'll do that over here real quick. Come on, you. Really? Just, that's not really a groove? Holy cow. There we go. Fold this, collapse that, and there we go. Like I said, getting this out is a real pain. I've created problems like scuffs because I have to kind of manhandle it when I do it at arm's length on the plinth. But getting this thing started can be kind of a pain. One thing you can kind of do is rotate this a little bit. If you pop this hinge loose from its moorings, then the other thing kind of comes with it. So that's one way to deal with that. We're going to flip this 90 degrees while we flip the leg down 90 degrees. Fold this flat, rotate this around, rotate the west way around, tab it, and then bring the leg forward. And since we're just on this leg, open up this tab, line up the leg, close the tab. Now we've done the whole leg. Aren't we cool? So we'll pop this loose. And we'll rotate these both simultaneously. Flip this around. Flip this in and tab. Flip it the rest of the way around. Open the retaining pin. Close that up and reseal the pin. And now we got legs. We're done with the legs. And I always forget this when I do it, when I'm not reading my script on it, but you have to flip out these little false treads that make us, because otherwise his feet look like that. It looks better like that. There we go. All right, let that hang for now. So the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna flip up this bit. We're going to rotate just this part 90 degrees to the side. Doesn't matter which side, but I do it on that side. And then this flips up out of the way for now. And we can go ahead and pop this loose, flip it around, run it through those linkages. And for me, I just kind of like to prop it there so I can do other stuff. Get some other stuff out of the way first. We'll go ahead and pop the head out. Now, in this direction, if you don't turn this thing 180 degrees around, the head simply won't line up properly. So, just be careful not to pull on the head joint when you're rotating it. But it should look like that, with like a little bit of an overlap in the back and some details in the front, because the back is completely flat. So then we bring this to the side. Also, the barrel extends for gun mode, for tank mode, and it contracts for robot mode. And then we bring this around like this, and we fold this up. Could have done it earlier when it was easier, but then we just collapse it inside the turret there, and then we can bring the turret down. Make sure the gun's flat or drooping a little bit so that the next part's a little easier. So we're going to bring this up. We want to make sure that the flap that covers behind the head doesn't go with it, because we want a hole. We're creating a hole to put the head through. And we can just kind of hyperextend the whole thing too far forward. We'll get this angle. And we lower it down over the head. Now what you got to do is, when you lower it, you want to make sure the hinges are folding forward towards the front. So they go frontwards and then back. And then the whole thing can shift backwards once it's past the head. Because right now you see there's some tabs there, and some holes. The whole thing has to go backwards a little bit before those will line up. So you have to kind of pull the thing back after you get the head through. So there's your alignment. This tab's in real clean if you've got it right. We can go ahead and tuck in the backpack and close this panel here, flip this down. We're almost done. Make sure these elbows or the shoulders are kind of popped out. It's funny that this and Bad Cube have weird little double jointed shoulder thingies that are hard to manipulate. I mean, Bad Cube's is worse, but still. So we make sure this is flat. We encapsulate the this joint is a little tight, little clearance issue there. And we're just looking to get these two buttons captured by the, can we see it? There's two, oh, that's way too bright. There's two holes in the silver part. So the two buttons go in the two holes. And then the whole thing can kind of pack down once you have it lined up. So do the same thing over here. Can be a little tricky. Just be sure you don't abuse the weird little shoulder joints in the process. We're just trying to shove it in and get it tight like that. And then we flip this over, basically 180 degrees. And we bring this up. We're already at the angle, the jaunty angle that makes him look like he really has shoulders. And then we have to separate these two joints and flip out the hands. Do one side at a time, I suppose. There we go. All right. It's a perfectly serviceable little version of Warpath. Fans Toys Sheridan. Let's give him a loose grip. He's just relaxed. He's just chilling out. All right. We'll catch up on 3 more comments, I suppose. You're still waiting for your Sheridan. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, gang, that's all I have to say about it. I've got Kang Toys Land Bowl in hand, so that'll be the video for this Sunday. Kind of a cool figure. It's got the same weird little squeaky parts and clearance problems that that this guy had. I got him half transformed into an arm. Got to finish doing that one of these days. I'll have to watch my own video because it's kind of goofy. And then in transit is the Transform Element version of Mirage. That looks like a fun design. And a little further behind that, but supposedly moving now, supposedly making its way, is the MMC Ocular Max Volantis, their version of Blastoff with the all built-in hand and everything. That'll be awesome. And then after that, who can say? I've seen. I've got the NPM Starscream, such as it is, on pre-order. It's like a movie accurate Starscream if you haven't seen it, and it turns into something that from the top looks like a jet, from the side it looks like a goddamn mess. But you can't have a masterpiece plane bot. I guess we'll just wait for. What would be great is if Unique Toys would make their own masterpiece Starscream, because I bet that would be clean. But that's people have those in hand at this point, so I got to think that despite Amazon Japan telling me it's not going to release until November, I think it should be out soon. So who can say? Maybe Takara, I could say, or Amazon Japan. Anyway, thanks for coming by, and I will catch you guys next week. Bubba. I don't know how to stop the stream. They changed the interface. I don't actually stop it. How annoying. So it just streams as long as my studio is streaming? I can't do like a test stream?